At this point, we do have a working website. However, the text leaves much to be desired because it is the default font on each page. It also doesn't have any images other than what is up here. So first thing that we're going to do is we are going to give the text a little bit more pizzazz. So again, we want to be on our template page because remember, this is where we are putting all of our layout and design so that we only have to apply it once. I do have all the other pages closed. Template is all I have. We're going to use our CSS styles panel for this. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight the words page title. Remember that I applied a heading 1 to that. And look down here at the very bottom of your CSS styles panel. You see the little plus sign on the piece of paper? That makes a new CSS rule. Okay? So click on that button and you're going to get a pop-up. Now, there's several different ways to create a style. The way we're going to do it is by putting it in a style sheet. Okay? And that's going to be a separate piece of paper, a separate file that contains all of the code for what the text looks like. So I'm going to choose a contextual selector for our CSS. It's going to be based on tags because right now we don't have any classes. The only IDs we have are to the div tags, and then we're going to use this, which means that right here we have a list of all of the different tags that we may have. And because I selected page 1, it automatically assumes that, or sorry, since I selected page title, it automatically assumes that the H1 is what we want to apply it to, and it is. Then down here it says where do we want it to be defined. Well, I want it in a new style sheet file. I'm choosing that, and then I click OK. At this point, it's going to prompt me to save my new style sheet. So I'm going to call it Styles. And it's going to give it a CSS extension. And then I'm going to click OK or Save. All right, now this next pop-up allows me to choose the definition for what the H1 looks like. Now, if you look here under Font Family, you can see where you can type in a font. Or click on this arrow and notice that it has some predefined fonts that you can use. Now, there are definitely more fonts available than what you have here. However, Dreamweaver tries to stick with basic web design principles and gives you some of the more common ones before you go and find fancy ones. Down here at the bottom, though, you can choose to edit your font list. And if you click on that, here are all of the fonts that are available on my computer. They may be slightly different than yours because I am working on a different computer. If I type the letter of what I want to get to, which is impact, it takes you directly there. So all I had to do was type I and it took me that way. And I'm going to click this arrow so that impact goes over here and I click OK. Now on this list, impact is one of my selected ones. So if I hit apply, notice that the page title is now the impact font. Here for font size, you can determine how big or small you want that font to be. So if I type in 16 pixels and hit apply, 16 pixels is quite small. You can also change this to point and other things. Point is bigger than pixels. But this is a heading, and this is the biggest size heading. So I probably want it to be, I think, a 25 point. That looks good. That's probably about where it was by default. The font style, notice that you have normal, italic, and oblique. We're going to keep it at normal. And if you do keep it at normal, you actually don't have to choose anything there. The line height is referring to the line spacing or the leading. And because this is a title, an H1, I'm going to leave this blank as well. Font height, or sorry, font weight allows you to choose exactly how strong your font is. So if you choose normal or bold or bolder, it kind of gets a little bit thicker, okay? And if I choose lighter, then it makes it on this thick font, it makes it a little bit easier to read. We have font variants where we have normal or small caps. We have text transform, again, capitalize, uppercase, lowercase, or none. And we have color. Well, color, notice how I can go over here to this image and I can choose the same blue that was in the image up here. And that's what I'm going to do. You also have decorations. We're leaving those all unchecked as well. Now, there's other things that you can do, and you can see all of those here, but right now we're focusing just on the look of the type. And if you click OK and then deselect it, you should see your H1. Now, here in our CSS, remember we had this original style for our 3 divs. They're located inside just this document, and then we have styles, the .css file, and if you look in your files panel, see where it is right there, styles.css, and there's the H1, and here's the properties that go with it. You could even add a property from here if you wanted to. Now go ahead and highlight body content, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add a new CSS rule based on a tag. Notice that it says P. We know that was using a paragraph tag, and it's being saved in styles.css. Now, I'll show this at the end. I'm going to do it a different way. Keep it there at tag. Click OK. For the font family, remember that paragraphs of text need to be a font that is easy to read, such as Verdana. Notice that it's a little bit bigger, just because the certain font, the way it is designed based on what the default font was. Here you can change the font size. Since I did the first one in point, I'm going to stick with point, and 12 point was the default, and I'm going to keep it that way. I am not going to change the font style. However, the line height I am going to change. And I'm going to go ahead and type in 17 point. I'm going to change that to point because that's going to space out the text, make it a little bit easier to read. I'm not going to change the weight, the variant, the transform, and the color by default is black, but I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that it is black. And then I'm going to click OK. Now, one of the things about CSS is that when you do a style sheet, different tags can change the text. So, for example, we know that this is in a P tag, but to ensure that all of the text looks like this, we might want to say that we also want every text inside the body also to look like that. Okay, so I can do P and body, and there it is. Now, when I save this and update, I can go to my folder and it didn't update. Let me see. No, it updated here. Let's try that again. Well, let me try it in a different browser. All right, now I just remembered why. If you look here, notice that even though we saved it, we were saving the template. Look right here. You see styles.css and there's an asterisk by it. That means all of the styles that we just applied here aren't actually applied to these pages yet, and that's why they didn't work when I opened them in the browser. So if I do a save all, now notice the asterisk disappeared, and if I go here and open it, there it is. Scared me for a second. I didn't know why it wasn't working. And there is all of the fonts changed. Okay? So I think the line height that I applied is okay for what is there. However, you should know that right here, I could go and change that in the properties if I needed to. The last one we're going to do is for one of the other headings. If you look at the Houston page, you'll notice that there were some subheadings. These subheadings are actually H2s, so they should be smaller than the H1s. So I'm going to close those two pages and I'm going to go back to my template. And what I want you to notice here is I have an H1. Okay? Well, I want the H2 to look just like that, only I want it to be a little bit smaller. So if I control click on it, I can duplicate, and then I can change that to an H2, click OK, and now the H2 shows up there. And here I can save my styles again. I can open Austin. Austin I don't think had any subheadings. No. Dallas did not. It was just Houston. And so there, oops. So you can see it there. Right now it looks exactly the same. San Antonio had some too. So what I need to do is go here into the properties and then change the font size. And I'm going to go ahead and make it, I think 20 should be okay. And if I refresh my page, now you can see that the H2 looks just like it, only it's a little bit smaller. So you don't always, remember, you want to work efficiently, and so when you create one thing, if there's just something small that you have to change, you duplicate it, you copy and paste. Once you do it once, you shouldn't have to do it again and again and again. So that is how you apply a cascading style sheet to your text. This is what the cascading style sheet looks like in its code view. You can see the H1 and all of the properties, the paragraph and body, and the H2. And these can be applied to any of the text elements. Anything that you apply text to, like a list, you can do it to that. You can change what a link looks like. You can apply different properties to images, etc., etc. So the sky is the limit with the cascading style sheet.